Hello all. I wanted to do a part 2 on the black versus white versus biracial type video I did a bit ago. I wanted to get a bit more candid. So I wanted to talk about a lot of things. I wanted to talk about experiences with different races, with guys, white mom versus black mom, that type of thing. Talking about how biracials with black moms are different from biracials with white moms, talking about how white parents or, the white moms of biracials are racist. I really don't think that's how that works. I really don't think that most white parents of biracials are racist. I've heard of racist family members or like a grandfather or something like that, but I don't think most parents of biracials are racist. I've heard of family members getting cut off or getting estranged. White women getting with black men can be an issue within their own race, but I'm not going to be talking about that. I did know this one Hispanic girl. She was Mexican. We were college age, in college. She one time, she was telling me how she felt about black girls, and she was like, oh, they're ratchet, or whatever. But it was kind of odd because she got with this dark-skinned black guy, The way she was talking about it, it was kind of like she just sort of fell for him, like he was an exception to, those black girls she was talking about. And she was totally cool and fine with me. Like, she treated me like I was her sister or something like that, and she would praise me and everything. She'd be like, oh, you're like those white girls who wear dresses. Like, one time she said that to me. So, yeah, I think it was something like, if I had a, kid with this black guy, she was with, then it would be what I am. So I do understand there's some aspect like that to some people. But, that was just one instance. It's not a generalization or anything like that. I've had more experiences with racism with other people of color more than with white people. Like, another example, one of the jobs I had, one of my colleagues was this Indian lady. So, one of our subs was a black lady. And she was like, oh, she didn't like her for some reason. She's like, oh, I don't like black. And then another time, one of our other colleagues was a Nigerian lady. And, yeah, she was a really, gorgeous Nigerian lady. So one time I was just like, oh, you know what, she is actually really gorgeous. We were just kind of fooling around, I guess. And she's like, no, she isn't. And, it was clear to anyone that she was gorgeous. So I think she was just kind of mad that I was saying that because she was black, you know what I mean? And these people knew that, I was half black. It came up some type of way. So they knew I was half black. But it was like they made a distinction. They thought I made some sort of distinction. And, they felt comfortable saying these types of things in my presence. So, yeah, that's just something that I noticed. Don't generalize. That's just a little bit of experiences I've had. I've had one white person be racist in front of me in real life. I mean, I've seen it online, but in person, I've only had one guy, make a kind of racist remark or statement in front of me, and it was kind of like he was joking, like he wasn't even serious. But no, my mom, I don't find her racist against black people at all. I think my mom really was just open to different types of people. Like, she had black friends, she had native friends. Like, I knew when my mom didn't like someone. She was pretty vocal about it. It never really seemed to be based on race. But yeah, my mom had white friends, black friends, one of her friends from high school, her name was Andrea. She was a black lady. She was married to a white guy. She had 2 kids. My mom had me kind of young, so I was, quite a bit older than her kids. But she was married to a white guy. She had biracial kids. Like, my mom didn't seem to think anything of it. They were, still the best of friends or whatever. She just acted like, oh, this is normal, what happens in the 21st century in America or whatever, something like that. So, yeah, I have white mom, black dad. There's this idea that these pairings consist of, a colorist black father, racist white mother. I'm not saying this kind of thing doesn't happen, but in my case, my mother nor my father ever really mentioned race much regarding other people. I remember one time my mom was like trying to hype up some black relative of mine or something like that. I guess she was trying to boost me up or something. But I don't remember my dad ever saying anything about other black people or skin color or anything like that. Most of his family is, dark-skinned. But yeah, my dad had white friends, black friends, whatever. I think my mom tried to push more of a black identity on me. I guess that's what it seemed like to me, but, I don't know. But yeah, my dad kind of stayed out of that type of thing. He kind of just treated me as what I am. He never really mentioned anything pertaining to that. It seemed like he kind of just left everything to my mom. He would just do like stereotypical dad things with me, like he taught me how to cook some things. I guess that's not really, stereotypical, but I mean, like, we would go like hiking. I would get like those craft projects for gifts a lot of the time for like Christmas. So he would, do those craft projects with me, like bead pets or whatever. We would watch, TV shows, that sort of thing. But yeah, other than that, like, ultimately, I don't really think my parents care, like, what I do, really, you know what I mean? Like, one time, I remember we moved somewhere new. It was actually the summer before I started college, so I was like 17. My dad made friends with one of the neighbors there. And he was a white guy. He was younger, I guess, maybe late 20s. And yeah, one time, me and my dad were going to go out somewhere. And yeah, he was saying hi to him or whatever. And he was like, "That's your daughter?" He was like, "Yeah, this is my daughter." And he was like, "Your daughter is cute," And so he was teasing me about that later on, like, we were going to be boyfriend or girlfriend or something like that. But, yeah, anyways, I don't think I find much, if any, difference from biracials with white moms and with black moms. And I'm kind of curious. I'm like, what are the differences, I think I have different ideas. But generally, people will have this idea that biracials with black moms are more accepting of blackness than biracials with white moms, something like that, I guess. I haven't really seen this. I know my experience is anecdotal, but I don't know if there's any truth to this assertion. I'm sure there may be some marginal differences, between my white mom or black mom, but I don't think to the level that people try to say. I haven't really seen much of a difference with biracials with white moms or black moms. I usually cannot tell what the race of the mom is with biracials. I mean, you have a mix of different type of biracials on both sides is, what it seems like to me. I don't really care about the pairings like that too much. I mean, I like other biracial people. They can have a white mom or a black mom. I don't really care about that too much. You have people talk about different things when you're biracial. Like, I've heard that we're taught to see ourselves as better than black people, and black women pushed into black spaces on the basis of this whole idea that everyone was raised to believe that dark skin is less than, that type of thing, seems kind of fringe and outlandish. People will associate light skin with white privilege and things of that nature. I think people think of it that way because when they think of light skin, they think of mixed people. They think they automatically come from a better family because part of their family is white, so they have privilege. Which is silly because I don't think white people automatically have privilege. If that was the case, then you wouldn't have poor, homeless white people. There's also, this idea that we choose for when it's good for us to hop over here or hop over there and basically benefit from doing that. But I mean, everyone does that. People of other mixes do that. Other minorities do that. Kind of like, we will say that we're black when we want to, when it's convenient, and say we're not black when we want to, when it's convenient. But you will see a lot of black people who will try to say to biracials that you're black, but in the same breath say that you're mixed. So what do you mean when you say biracials will say they're biracial sometimes and say they're black other times when you will do the same thing? There can be pressure, to identify as being black. That's just part of the experience that we have. But black people aren't all the same. Black people aren't a monolith, as they say, Some people want you to identify as black and feel offended if you don't. And some just want you to claim being biracial because they don't want their image being erased. But people like to play dumb and don't see that this is the type of thing that biracials go through. So, yeah, you keep playing dumb over there and we'll play dumb over here. To me, in my opinion, it's like if that person is comprised of both races, then both of those spaces are their spaces. My perception of white mothers with mixed kids, to me, I know a lot of people have some negative feelings towards them. Like some women who are involved with black men have some type of issue, and I've experienced that too. I've seen people go to black people because they don't get validation from their own group of people. People have different issues. Some people don't actually like being white. People have different things going on there. Some people don't want their kids to be white. That's why they're with a person of color. To me, I think this sort of parental dynamic can be dysfunctional. I've seen some mixed people take it on as their own, and others resent their parents for this type of thing. I don't really know how many of these people are having children with black men, but I do understand there is an aspect of people like that. A lot of the time, someone will be with someone of another race, but they'll be of the mindset that they just happen to like someone of a different race. Not that they don't like themselves, if they have a good self-esteem about themselves. Some people aren't attracted to what they are, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if you don't like yourself, you don't want to have kids that look like you, it's not just like an attraction. Some people act like mixed and light-skinned women are supposed to prefer dark-skinned black men, supposedly because we're preferred, like we don't have a mind of our own to do what's in our own interest. Other people get angry at mixed and light-skinned women who go for dark-skinned black men. And it's like, if they're black and they just happen to be lighter, or they're mixed, then they're dating, within their race. Most people date within their race. Is it really only dark-skinned women who are supposed to be liked and preferred? I mean, are we just colorist for taking interest in someone? If I'm into something or someone, then obviously I would want them to be preferential to me. My thing is, yes, I found preference with black men, but I don't prefer them, so my preference overrules anyone else's. To me, it's like with dark-skinned black men, I can't have kids that look like me. It's better for me to be with someone who is light, because the other way I will feel like they will dominate my genes. But that's just how I am. I don't want to be anything other than me when I think about how I always felt. I like to keep my genes. I don't want anyone dominating in that sense. I've seen where other mixed race or light-skinned people want a dark-skinned partner. They don't want their kids to look like them. There's, the situation where they felt like they've always felt otherized or made fun of. They want to fit in. We all are different. We have different preferences and experiences. It does not mean someone was in a bad relationship. It does not mean someone is hating themselves. It doesn't mean someone is bitter or seeing someone in a bad light. Some of the time, it just is, and there's nothing wrong with that. My main thing is that I don't like being fetishized, and that's the main thing that a lot of dark-skinned black men go off of. They act like if you're mixed, it's a compliment, and it's better than what they are. They put a lot into being mixed. I've never had white men straight up ask my ethnicity before they knew what my name was. To me, it's a lot better with mixed race men because they aren't going to fetishize you because they are what you are. It seems like with these certain black men, they have the expectation that everyone is attracted to them, or like all mixed race women are attracted to them. Why would everyone be attracted to you? I don't expect everyone to be attracted to me. Why do you assume everyone has to be attracted to you? Not all black women are going to be attracted to you. Why do you assume that all biracial women are attracted to you? Biracial women are not even the same thing as you. They're a whole different thing. If you add black and white, it's a whole thing of itself. I mean, maybe some people are attracted to everyone and all races and expect other people to be as well. I wish I could reject these men nicely and softly and just be honest. I am single. I do not want you. Can I say that and not have it turn into a big debacle? I can reject light-skinned men, white men fine, without having an issue. I really think this has to do with the idea that dark skin is animalistic and masculine, and light skin is the opposite, so, soft and feminine. So I think this idea has been internalized. It's like, I don't know why you guys internalized a racist perception who is long gone and dead, especially dark-skinned black women who seem to buy into it. It's like you're saying you're a masculine, unattractive woman just based off of a skin tone. But, anyways, I think dark-skinned black men internalize this and see themselves as more animalistic and less able to contain themselves. And then they think that light-skinned women are weak and soft and easy pickings, basically. Ideally, my preference is light-skinned, mixed, ambiguous men. When I talk about preference, I don't mean that what is not my preference is like second base or anything. It just means it's not the most ideal scenario. Not like first choice, second choice kind of thing. Ideally, I think it would be preferable if we had a mixed space where we could date, procreate, mingle, even if we had to go outside the country. Like, I like how Latinas have, like what Creoles have going on in New Orleans. I grew up with mostly white males, so, I favor them as well. People talk about what is seen as superior in the black community and the white community. I'm not focused on what is considered superior in the black community. I'm not very interested or connected to that at all. I mean, as far as heritage, yes, but not what random black people, the perception of what random black people think of me. As far as the white community, people like to talk about white people being racist. I'm sure there are white people that are racist. I'm sure there are white men that are racist. I haven't really experienced that, and I'm not saying that like, oh no, the white men aren't racist or whatever. White people aren't racist. It's more of like it could just be that they're hiding it and they're not putting it out in the open. You know what I mean? But yeah, for every 10 white men who are racist, there are 10 who are not racist and are going to consider you. There are even racists who would be willing to consider you. It's just a situation of, oh, you know, you're an exception. I don't recommend for people to get in those types of relationships, but that sort of thing does happen as well. So, you know, it's really not that complicated. Yeah, some men are really particular in what they like and they don't veer far from that. Other men are more open, and it's just a situation of who gives them attention and who connects with them. I've definitely have had instances where I felt otherwise in situations involving white people. Other instances, not so much, also involving white people. So, you know, who knows what the case actually was. It could have been some type of racism. It could have been like my energy or output or something else entirely. With humans, sometimes your only reaction is the way that someone looks. They respond to something that they feel rather than something that is tangible. Humans are very non-tangible when they judge a human being. They're more so feely, they're into their feelings rather than actually judging the person for who the person is. It's based off of vibes and energy more than substance and logic. So you're using how you feel rather than how the situation is. So yes, sometimes I felt like I've been otherized. Like there's this person that doesn't like you for whatever reason. They're kind of treating you like you're off-putting or something like that. But, you know, I think most people try to be nice. So I don't think I've ever really been treated in a racist way by a white person or a white man. White guys are usually the main ones, you know, coming up to me, talking to me, being friendly, you know, since elementary school. So, you know, this whole thing of, you know, oh, white people are racist, you know, they see you as black, they treat you as black, they don't want you in their spaces or whatever, you know, that type of thing. That's really just not my experience all that much, you know. White men have mostly been the ones interested in me, you know, looking at me, whatever. You know, I'll be out here breaking these dudes' necks when I want to, you know. But, yeah, and then it's black guys. I remember the one Indian lady I used to work with. We went out a couple of times. She was like in some sort of one-way competition with me, you know. I thought she was very pretty. She had a nice figure. She was, you know, brown skinned. I would have like white guys coming up to me and not her, and she would like get pissed. Like one time I remember it was around New Year's. I was dressed up really nice and everything, and we went out to grab a couple of things at Target in the city. This white guy, I think he was like in his 50s and he was like homeless or something, I think. But anyways, you know, I was with my Indian friend and he came up to us from behind. He was like kind of tapping me. He was like, young lady, young lady. He was like, I just want to wish you a happy new year. And he didn't really address her at all, and she just looked like pissed. She looked disappointed and mad. The implication that I got was like, oh, you look so gorgeous that I wanted to go out of my way and show gratitude for that. And I mean, I'm not conceited or anything like that, but, you know, that's just what happened. And, you know, this lady, she was totally like, she was something else. So that's why I'm just kind of like, meh. this guy was like homeless and in his 50s, and yeah, I mean, I have, sympathy for homeless people and people who are in a bad place, but I was like, girl, seriously? And no generalization of Indian people. I had a couple of other Indian friends, and they were not like her. But yeah, she just happened to be Indian. This is the Indian lady I mentioned earlier who had, the racist inclinations. But yeah, after white men, then next I get most interest from black guys. So yeah, I guess that makes sense, seeing as I'm half white and half black. Not all black guys, but just like the black guys who hang on the street. You know what I mean? They are usually trying to yell at you on the street or pursue you on the street, which to me is uncomfortable. Like, I've had some fear issues. Middle Eastern and Indian sometimes. Not many Middle Easterners around here. Indian men tend to stick to their culture a lot of the time, I would say, in my experience. I had this one guy from Jordan. He used to live in my apartment complex. He tried to ask me out a couple of times. I turned the poor guy down. Asian and Hispanic guys are usually like bros. Like, I don't think I've had an Asian or Hispanic guy interested in me. We're more like bro and sis. Like, I had an Asian manager before. We have some Hmong and Koreans up here, and he was pretty cool as hell. Like, yeah, he was a good manager. When I say Hispanic, what I mean is Central American, so, like Mexican. Because, like, I've had Hispanics interested in me, but it was like a Brazilian and Dominicans, but they're usually a little bit racially different. Like, they're usually, have black in their mixture as well, whereas with Central Americans, not so much, unless they're just straight up like an African Latina. But yeah, although they were interested in me, I still put them in the friend zone. So, Asian and Hispanic guys, I don't think we have that kind of energy. I kind of just leave them to their own women. High school, I didn't really pay much mind to guys. In college, I had a few experiences, nothing all that serious. There was this one guy, I don't even remember his name. If I heard it, it would probably click, but yeah, he was white. He had blonde hair. He had his hair, long, kind of, mid-length. Long for a guy, but, maybe around shoulder length, a little above shoulder length. So, yeah, he had blonde hair, green eyes. I think his background was like Irish or Scottish or something like that. And he had like a broad nose. I think it had like a bump on it or something like that. But, yeah, apparently he had a crush on me, and he was telling everyone. Yeah, I thought he was attractive. I liked how he looked. He kind of had like a grungy look to him. But yeah, I talked to him quite a few times. We hung out a few times. Like, and we were like talking about music one time, and he was like, "Oh, I like Fuel," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I like Fuel too." And he's like, "No, you don't. You don't know who they are." But yeah. Anyways. But yeah, it didn't work out much past the initial aesthetics. Like, it didn't feel like we had anything deep, And then there was another guy. He kind of looked like the singer The Weeknd. So, yeah, he was mixed race. He showed me a picture of his parents. His mom kind of looked like maybe she was some sort of Latina or a Pacific Islander or something like that. I don't know. I didn't really ask him, but yeah, I really liked him. I remember it was springtime. We were hanging out, and the flowers were blooming everywhere, and we were just walking around, and he was like picking the flowers, and he made me like a bouquet. So but yeah, he smoked marijuana. And so, yeah, I don't do that kind of, I don't smoke, okay? So, yeah. Then there was this other guy that people were trying to hook me up with because I was single, and they were like, "Yeah, you'll get along with him." So he was half white and Native American from what I remember, but he kind of just looked white. But yeah, we didn't really get along that way. I mean, yeah, he was a cool person and everything, but we didn't really have much of a relationship. And then there was another guy. His name was Paul, but he did not like his name, so he went by something else. So he was biracial, black and white. He did not look mixed with black at all. He looked mixed with like white and Hispanic or something like that. Like, I thought he was really attractive. Like, he played the guitar. Like, him and his best friend, they kind of had like this like rocker like grunge style. He had a kid. Yeah, to me that's not a deal breaker, but yeah, it just didn't work out. And yeah, one of my roommates, she had a boyfriend. She was white. She was like kind of chubby. She had strawberry blonde hair. Her boyfriend was kind of like an average size. Well, anyways, we went out one time. Me, her, and her boyfriend. And he was trying to talk to me in the way that seemed odd for the situation. But yeah, I found out he was telling people that, he liked me and that he loved mulattoes or something like that. And but yeah, it was like, your girlfriend is my roommate, like something's not adding up with this situation. And I mean, like, I wasn't interested in him or attracted to him at all, so I kind of just, tried to avoid the situation. Like, I don't think my roommate knew about it or anything, but yeah, it didn't really cause any issue. It didn't really go much further than me hearing him telling that he was interested in me to people. So yeah, it's mostly white guys and other biracials that I've been with that have been interested in me, and I have been interested in them. There's also this situation where people aren't really aware of what race you are, or, they're not aware of what race you are, but you're not specifically perceived as white. So it's like I've had to come out of the closet, so to speak, sometimes because usually people don't ask my race or bring it up really. Like, I don't think I've had a guy I was with really ask my race. Sometimes the topic would just kind of come up. At one of the jobs I had, one of my colleagues was an older white lady. She thought I said something that might be considered racist, and I was like, "Oh, I'm half black." And she was like shocked. She asked me what I was, and I told her, I'm half black, half white, Polish, yada yada. She was like, "Oh, do you cook any Polish food?" And I was like, "Yeah, I cook, stuffed cabbage, pierogies," but yeah. But I was curious. I was like, "What did you think I was?" And she was like, "I don't know. I didn't think about it." She kind of said it like it was something that wasn't really important to her. Or, I'll have people ask, like, they're just unsure. Like, I've had friends from adulthood do that, like from college or from work, who will do that. But yeah, some people view me as biracial, some people view me as black, but just light-skinned and ambiguous looking. Some people view me as Latina. I'll have Middle Easterners who will befriend me and talk to me about the Middle East or Islam as if it pertains to me. I don't really control how people see me. Sometimes if people are unsure, they'll kind of categorize you as something more exotic, even though you might not have the, common phenotype of that other group of people. They'll just, try to fit you in there. Some people have the idea that it's problematic to ask that sort of question. Like, people ask because they like to be able to know how to treat someone in a racist fashion basically, or a stereotypical fashion basically, and that's what they need to do with everyone they encounter. So when they see someone they can't really place, they have that issue of basically needing to know their ethnicity. I guess there's truth to that. I don't really know. I think sometimes people are just curious. It can be odd, but I don't really take offense to it. Online in these discussions, I've had people take issue with my experience, like they have an issue with me saying I've been confused for other races. Like with black people, they'll say, "Oh, you're black, you look black." But it's like, yeah, that's why when I've gotten over by the police, they put my race down as unknown or white. You need to be down for the cause. You can't claim anything else. Like, I'm desperate to associate with another race or something like that. When it's like, just no, it's my experience. Like, I like how I look. If people think I look like something else, I still like my looks. It's just something funny and a bit odd when people don't know what you are and think different things. You know, it's just a part of the experience. I'm not trying to put black people down or anything like that. I think black women are just as beautiful as any other race of people that I've been mistaken for. I've seen Latinas have issue, and to me, it came across like, we don't want to be associated with you. You're black, you don't look like Latinas with straight silky hair and keen features. And yeah, some Latinas look racially different, like Eva Longoria type of look. Sometimes when you're talking about these specific circumstances, it can come off as crass. But yeah, I'm just talking about this subset experience that I've had with some Latinos. But yeah, usually it's been Latinas that have been curious about what I am. I do appreciate Latin culture. I do love different cultures. I've had Mexican friends. I've met people from Colombia, Chile, the Caribbean, Brazil. We've all gotten along well, ladies and gents. Just a disclaimer, but so the way this specific group of people were trying to say, it was like we were trying to be associated with Latinas and revere their phenotype, and it's like, no. Latina is not a status. I don't see any race or ethnicity as a status. I can't help that people think that I'm South American or Dominican. Yeah, growing up, Cheetah Girls, Adrienne Bailon was my favorite, and I think it's because I really do think we have similarities in our phenotype. I even thought that she was mixed with black. From what I've seen, Puerto Ricans are like 20% black, give or take. With Dominicans, it's more varied. Some are more black, some are more European. But yeah, if she would have had a solo career, I think I would have been a fan. I also think Amara La Negra, I think that she's gorgeous. She's a darker skinned, mixed Afro-Latina. Other than that, I'm not really exposed to Latina people or celebrities or Latin culture. To me, mestizos are ethnically different looking. I guess the majority of Central and South Americans are mestizo to some extent. Some more Euro, some more native, some more black. Like, they tend to have more broad, square jaw and a fuller nose. Not all. Some have a pointy nose and a pointy chin. Some are paler and some are browner. But yeah, they do tend to have their own look. I've met Latinas who look very European, but yeah, in general, they do tend to have a specific look to them, whether they're more white looking or browner. I don't necessarily think I look Latina, but they do tend to vary in looks, and I have seen some with a similar phenotype. With Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, they're usually racially mixed with European, some African, some Native. You also have Afro-Latinas. Sometimes you have more black-looking or mixed-looking people. The way this group of people were trying to say is that, like, you can tell that we're black, or like most of our features come from a black background. From what I've seen, Afro-Latina mixes do tend to look a bit different on average because they do have a different mix. In America, we're more Northern European and Western European, so primarily Northwestern. And then in South and Central America, the European DNA is primarily from the Iberian Peninsula, so Spain and Portugal. Northwestern Euro genes are the most recessive, with the main difference being skin color, I think. Like, I've never seen a biracial who is half black and half Northwestern European be darker than like a light brown or caramel color like Obama. Like Tinashe, for example, she's exactly half African and half Swedish, I think. But yeah, she's very light. She's racially ambiguous looking in general. Yeah, some of us have a strong ambiguous genes. But yeah, or like Nara Smith. She's also half white, half African, but she's also, she's also very light. Whereas like mixed Afro-Latinas tend to lean more toward darker shades and in general can be much darker. But again, Latinos vary a lot with both genotype and phenotype, so it's just a generalization. With phenotype, I think that Afrocentric features do tend to be a bit more common with the more recessive Euro genes. East African tribes who are racially mixed with West Asian or Arab, they do tend to have more keen features because Arab genes aren't as recessive. Some of them do look dominantly African, some look more racially mixed. I'm not sure on, the exact percentages or anything like that. And with Latinos and mixed Africans, they're more multi-generationally mixed, which causes a different genetic effect rather than having parents of two different races. Like with ogres in China, they're part Turkic and part East Asian, but you can see ogres with blonde hair, red hair, green eyes, blue eyes. But you wouldn't see that if you had parents of two different races because the dominant genes are more prominent that way, rather than if you're multi-generationally mixing, you can have a situation where recessive genes get expressed. So, they were trying to say like, you're just black, due to not wanting to be associated with us. I don't know. They think we want to be Latina or a part of the culture or something. And it's like, no, I really don't. You can have your culture, Latin culture is not more special than any other culture to me. And this was more of the Latinas with like the straight shiny hair and the more pointed features. I don't really think people are talking that much about that kind of phenotype when they think a biracial looks like a Latina. Sometimes people really can't place you and they default to that. There are plenty of mixed Afro-Latinas who relate to American biracials and have more similar traits. So I don't know if they thought that we want to take these people from their culture or something. We want to converge or something, but it literally was never anything that deep. Yeah, I've seen Latinos in mixed spaces on their own free will. Yeah, I'd love to have them, but I really don't care what they want to do, if they want to be there or not. So, anyways, with biracials, when you're half black, sometimes, people can see you have an African background, your features come from an African background. Other times, we still look like a person of color, but something else, like Mariah Carey. Some people thought she's just black, but white passing. Some people thought she's Latina. Some people thought she's white. With Nara Smith, some people might think she's North African. Some people might think she's Latina or some type of Asian. Some people might think Zendaya is South American. Some people might think she's from the Philippines, Sometimes we look completely different. We kind of look like our own thing. That's what racial ambiguity is. People don't know what you are. People guess different things. Sometimes you just look like your own person, That's my experience and I embrace it. Most of the biracials I've met look plainly biracial to me. Like, they aren't really black looking. Maybe you can tell they're mixed and they look black or white. They look like what they are. That's why when people would say like, oh, you're biracial, you look black, it was weird to me because I always thought that biracials look like what they are, biracial. But since that time, I've come across biracials where it's like, well, maybe they're biracial, maybe they're black. When you look at the media, it is usually more phenotypically black looking biracials who are like more in the forefront. They have a wider appeal, I guess. We more racially ambiguous looking biracials tend to get more otherized unless we're a part of what people call black culture, which is really just like the hip hop subculture. A lot of biracials I've come across have a phenotype like Tia and Tamara Mowry, Alicia Keys, Doja Cat, Georgia Smith, where they can look black and lighter skinned or biracial or could possibly be Latina or be mistaken for something like Afro-Latina mix. Like I've seen where a biracial will look black and Latina even though they're mixed with black and white. Me, for instance, I think the biracials that I most look like would be Koa Beck. She wrote that book called White Feminism. Or like the hair YouTuber on here, her YouTube name is Joyelle. So a biracial look to me, but if you're not familiar with it, you might think it's some sort of white or Middle Eastern or Latina. Like not specifically black, but mixed or racially ambiguous. So it's like, I really don't have a reaction to being told I look Latina. It's really not positive or negative. I just take it as a compliment to be polite. The way these people were talking about it, it was like, we worship you and uplift your phenotype. With Latinos, I see them as mixed race people, so we're both mixed race, so there's that. In Mexico, you have mestizos, who are mostly a mix of Spanish and Amerindian. In Argentina, you have more of a European demographic. In Brazil, there's European, descendants of African slaves that were brought there, and natives. The Caribbean is also very mixed, some more of this, some more of that. So it's like, to me, when people say you look Latina, to me, I just take it as you look racially mixed, like a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans are. So I will say Latinas tend to have a specific look, in my opinion, due to the commonality of the mixture, but they do vary in phenotype a bit. But, you know, I was just thinking about what women's phenotype I think is most beautiful to me. You know, if I had to look like something else. To me, it would be Eastern European women, like the Slavic look. I'm trying to think of someone like Putin's daughter. But yeah, and then Persian women, and Middle Eastern women who are Muslim. They usually wear their hijab out and about. Before the Islamic Revolution in Iran, it wasn't worn as often, the hijab. African, West African, Nigerian, Ghanaian, and mixed African phenotypes, biracials, Ethiopians. I mean, that makes sense. I'm half Eastern European, basically, half African, and, I've gotten confused for Middle Eastern before. When I'm thinking of celebrities, the most beautiful celebrities, and, there's not many like famous Eastern Europeans or Middle Easterners or African women that I know of here in the US. That's why there's not any of them on the list, but yeah, who I came up with was Elizabeth Taylor. I think she is one of the most gorgeous ladies. My grandma kind of looked like her. She got confused a couple of times for Elizabeth Taylor. When my grandparents were younger, they used to go out to California and everything, but my grandma told about how when she was out in California a couple of times that happened to her. And then I have Vanessa Williams. So yes, she is just a gorgeous lady. Like, I really think she's one of the most beautiful people. And then Mariah Carey. She is really beautiful. She was something else back in her heyday. I wouldn't want to look like her, though, because I prefer my features. She's got, like, thinner lips and then a fuller nose. I like my features where I have fuller lips and a smaller nose, but yeah, that doesn't take away anything from her at all. She is really one of the most beautiful people, I think. And then I have Brooke Shields. I remember my mom watching a Lifetime movie, and she starred in it. She worked in an office or something, in some office, and she had a stalker. But yeah, Brooke Shields is iconic, gorgeous lady. And then Karen Parsons, I remember seeing her on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when I was a kid and thinking, oh wow, she's so pretty. Yeah, so we're both biracial. She's one of the prettiest biracials in the media or whatever that I've seen, in my opinion. So yeah, mixed, light-skinned, biracial, like what I am, and then European, like my mom's side of the family. With men, I like Italian, West Asian, Persian, Eastern European, German, British, Irish, Scottish, and of course, biracial men out there. With biracials, I find in real life I get along fine with other biracials. I've met quite a few biracials. But online, when you have topics and discussion, you talk about things that you normally don't in casual interactions. It can cause rifts. Like, I've had where people will try to push me more in the white category. Maybe they're insecure about their phenotype having more of an Afrocentric look, or, attention from men who might prefer more light-skinned, ambiguous looking. Like, I've had instances where I show my DNA test, says I'm 40% African, and I'll have people try to tell me like, oh, you're 70%, or you're actually closer to a quadroon or something like that. And it's like, no, I'm as biracial as the average biracial. I'm 40% African. That's why, I like to show my hair. Like, I'm a stone cold biracial, okay? Yeah, I'm not the most biracial person. Like, I'm not a 50-50 biracial. I have 10% more European and other things, but, yeah, that's just how it is in the U.S. Some African Americans have some admixture. You also have this issue of who is more black, who is more white in appearance and behavior, that sort of thing. Who acts this way, who acts that way, whatever. And the light skin and mixed spaces I've come across on YouTube, many of the time, the people in that sector are not biracial. They are black, or they have a mixed parent and a black parent. They don't identify away from black women really that much, but their problem is dark-skinned black women. I think what happens, they find themselves to be in competition more so rather than seeing themselves as another race. With the whole conflict with black men and not being able to hear criticism about black men, to me, is an aspect that shows they identify as black. If they didn't identify as black, they wouldn't see black men as their men and trying to protect black men. To me, it's the narrative that they claim on the colorism platforms, because in reality, I think they agree with colorism, in some of those spaces I came across, and this was back, several years ago now. If you're pro-dark-skinned men or pro-dark-skinned women, you're not pro-light skin, in my opinion, because you're basically trying to appease one facet of the dark-skinned population. So if you're trying to appease dark-skinned black men or dark-skinned black women, then I don't think it's really about trying to talk about the issues that light-skinned people face. I would think that if you really want to talk about the issues, that you're facing, it shouldn't come with talking about colorism and saying like there's a problem with someone's skin tone because it's too dark. If you're coming from a place of abhorrence, then there's a biasness rather than talking about reality with what you're dealing with. And yeah, that can apply to both sides, light skin, dark skin. To me, this strategy regarding light-skinned women is the same as the fetishization of light-skinned women by black men. Dark-skinned black men like to focus on light-skinned women, and on quite a few of these channels they focused on dark-skinned black men. To me, it's like, if you're saying that you're different than other black people, then how come you're still going after the same thing. You go after dark-skinned black men like they're your own. I've never seen dark-skinned black men as the male version of me. I never thought of it as I'm different, but the other half and the man I cater to are dark-skinned black men. So, with this whole thing, it seems like you're into the idea of how dark-skinned black men treat light-skinned women, which is still connected to the black community. If you're trying to separate yourself from the black community, then you shouldn't be concerned with how dark-skinned people feel with these sorts of matters. A lot of these times when we're talking about Latinas who are mixed race, but they often identify with a nationality. They are multi-generationally mixed a lot of the time. They have the Puerto Rican man and the Puerto Rican woman. They have the Dominican man and the Dominican woman. They have the Brazilian man and the Brazilian woman. It's not just, a community of women. When you don't acknowledge the male side of your identity, then how much of an identity do you have? I feel like it's not serious. I feel like it's just a response to the whole colorism issue. So it's like outside of this whole situation, how much of an identity do you have with other mixed race and light-skinned people? How much do you really align with them? Or is it just a matter of a response to dark-skinned black women? The whole light skin versus dark skin. On both sides, you have people who seem to have an issue with blackness or view it negatively. I've always seen men who look similar to me racially as very different from dark-skinned black men. That's why I was never really interested in a lot of the light-skinned and mixed-race channels, because it's like, if you really had a sense of identity, you would have a sense of identity for both men and women. I prefer mixed light-skinned men over dark-skinned men, and I prefer mixed light-skinned men over brown-skinned men. I've always felt more of a connection with them than with black men or white men. I've never seen white men or black men as racially the same as me.